Arrakis. Dawn of the Fremen is set more than 100 generations before the Atreides came to Arrakis, and focuses on the hard choices Fremen leaders made to survive and thrive. Bargaining, cooperating, and competing in the harsh desert environment to locate scarce resources and create the communal dwellings known as sieges. This is a quick overview of the gameplay. The full rulebook is available to download from our website. There are 2 ways to win the game: by controlling the winning number of sieges, 3 for single players, 5 for alliances, at the end of the action phase, or, and this can get interesting, by unanimous decision of the council. Setup starts with each player choosing their tribe and taking their set to place in front of their position. This includes the tribe card, a thumper token, 30 warrior tokens, and 8 water debt tokens. Then you proceed to prepare the resource production sites by removing 1 water, 1 food, and 1 worm tooth resource production site, mixing them up and setting them aside. Turn the remaining 11 resource production sites face down next to the game board, randomly adding one of the face down you had set aside previously, then giving them a good mix so future selections are also random. Shuffle the scavenge deck and place it next to the game board, alongside the cycle phase tracker and the cycle phase marker. Each player then rolls the order die to determine their order in the starting section of the gameplay, Hajj. Gameplay is split into 3 sections: Hajj, initiation cycle, and then cycles, until the game is won. Hajj is where players jockey for position and finish setting up the game by placing rock barriers and resources before settling Arrakis with their warriors. The Hajj leader rolls the order die for the number of rock barriers included in a game, then places the first rock barrier on any boundary between 2 territories. Players then proceed clockwise to follow suit until all are placed. Rock barriers typically prevent movement or shipment across a border and cannot be placed on a border with drum sand. Starting again with the Hajj leader, proceeding clockwise, players select one of the 12 face-down resource production sites without revealing it, and place it on any empty territory on the map, except drum sand, continuing until all sites are placed without any player having seen what they are. All of the resource production sites are then revealed in place. Each territory with a site will produce a resource of that type regularly throughout the game, and the player occupying that territory controls those resources. Starting with the Hajj leader and proceeding counterclockwise, each player selects a territory and places one of their Fremen warriors there, until all territories except drum sand have a Fremen warrior. Now it's time to call the first worm, Shai Hulud. The Hajj leader selects any territory they occupy and places a worm token there, make a side up. Worms provide mobility and military strength in territories near them. Continuing counterclockwise, each player places a worm on one of their held territories. After Hajj, the game is played in cycles, each cycle divided into 6 phases, although the first cycle, initiation, plays somewhat differently from subsequent cycles. The player who placed the last worm is now the lead player for the initiation cycle. In subsequent cycles, the lead and play itself will pass clockwise from player to player. During cycles, starting with the lead player, each player takes the actions allowed for the current phase in clockwise order. The lead player places the cycle phase marker on the development phase shown on the cycle phase tracker, and moves the marker to the next phase once each phase is complete. As mentioned, the first cycle is called initiation cycle, and differs slightly from the subsequent cycles. In initiation cycle, there is no development phase, as no territories have produced resources yet. The phases that usually require the Arrakis die are always completed without rolling. No new worms are called in production. Players select the resource tokens that correspond to the resource production sites in their territories and place them in the territory with the resource production site. Initiation has a normal trade phase and shipment phase without rolling the Arrakis die. The action phase in initiation is limited to only 1 attack, otherwise it's a normal action phase with 2 possible actions. Initiation ends with a council phase, though there usually won't be much to discuss in that first cycle. The lead player moves 1 person clockwise. All subsequent cycles follow the phase progression, starting with the development phase, where players can spend resources to build still suits, Christ knives, and sieges. For example, a spice, water, or food token that was created in the previous production phase can now be spent for a still suit within that territory. Players may also exchange their rival water debts for resources, which may be immediately used anywhere. Production phase is the first that requires the Arrakis die to be rolled by the lead player to determine what occurs, or indeed if the phase occurs at all. Before the die is cast, the players, in turn, choose the status of their thumper, placing the token in sight either crescent or full moon face up. A full table of results is available in the rulebook, but an example could be as follows. If the Arrakis die is rolled and a full moon is showing, the phase will occur. Food, water, and worm teeth are produced at the resource production sites, and spice is produced only in the territories with the full moon spice harvest areas. Players who chose to present their thumpers with a full moon side can either produce a new worm in any of their territories without a worm, or promote an existing maker to a great maker. Players with a crescent moon showing on their thumper may only promote a single worm if possible. If any resource production site territory contains or is adjacent to a territory containing a siege, that player gets a bonus production. 2 tokens if you have none of that resource there, 1 if you already have one, and none if you have 2 or more. Siege bonus is never more than 2 and isn't applicable if there is a rock barrier between the adjacent territories. If the die rolls to a storm face, the phase does not occur. Other die results can require a vote to see if the phase happens, or if the lead player will decide. And if a worm is rolled in the production phase, all players lose a worm. The trade phase allows players, starting as always with that cycle's lead player, to trade resource tokens, water debts, or tradable scavenged items 1 for 1 with each other player. Once traded, any resources are placed by each player in any territory they control. The shipment phase allows players, in turn, to ship any or all movable tokens, starting from, moving through, and ending in territories they control. The distance you can move items depends on the movement number of the starting token. For still suits, this is 2, for makers, 3, etc. Resources, like food, can be moved 1 territory. When moving over multiple territories, you may move into the same territory more than once, picking up and dropping off resource tokens and development tokens. Sieges and warriors are not movable. No shipment can be made into or through drum sand without an ornithopter, which must count the boundaries as it flies over. If you end a shipment with more than 1 development token, e.g. still suit, Chris knife, etc., you must eliminate the duplicate tokens. More than 1 numbered movable token can be moved through territories that contain the same movable token, but 2 can never be left there. Next is the action phase, which always occurs. A player has 2 actions, attack or scavenge, followed by attack or ship. To take a scavenge action, draw 1 card from the scavenge deck and reveal it to all other players. Place any scavenge card that is not immediately used next to your tribe card. There are 2 types of cards, map scavenge and tribe ability. When you draw a card, follow the instructions. Cards marked recycle are shuffled back into the deck after use, and cards marked remove are taken from the game immediately after use. To successfully attack a territory, you must have more strength than the territory you're attacking. To determine this, there are a number of steps. Target a territory. Select the territory you want to attack, and place the attack marker. Calculate defensive strength. Add together the strength values of the territory's warrior, any still suit, Chris knife, worm, siege, and scavenged items. Then add the bearing strength of adjoining territories controlled by the same tribe, as long as there is no rock barrier between the 2 regions. If a rock barrier exists, this is 0. Calculate the bearing strength of other players. Starting to the left of the target tribe, all players with territories adjacent to the target one declare if they will remain neutral, join the attack, or join the defense. Once they have decided they remain uninvolved, all their totals added to the defense total. Calculate attack strength. This is calculated in the same way, but includes all the territories and tribes that are adjacent and are controlled by, or have declared for the attacker. The attacker can bring in reinforcements from 1 non-adjacent territory using the same rules as shipment. Players can only pick up tokens and must transport them to the target territory. Determine if the attacking strength is higher. If the total attacking strength is higher than the total defensive strength, then the attack succeeds. If it is less than or equal to, the attack is not successful. You may then either target a different territory or choose a different valid action. The defensive player can prevent another tribe from being involved in the attack by adding 2 water debt tokens of that colour to the territory. This tribe's strength is not added to the total. If it is the attacking tribe, the attack is halted. The stopped player cannot attack or support another tribe's attack on that territory for the rest of the cycle. They can help defend the territory where their attack was stopped later in the same cycle. If an attack was successful, replace the warrior in the territory with your own. Any duplicate development tokens moved in from a non-adjacent territory must be discarded. Any tokens or resources not eliminated are now captured and remain in that territory. Once you occupy that territory, add a water resource to that territory. You also then hand over water debt to the losing tribe, or 2 water debts if they lost 4 or more strength in tokens. For example, if a tribe lost a warrior in a still suit, the total strength is 2, and the defensive player receives a water debt token. If the attack is stopped using water debt, that player may attack another territory or change their action to scavenge. The final phase of each cycle is the council phase. This always occurs. At the council, all players discuss the current game, create formal alliances, and propose modifications, which, if unanimously agreed upon, become binding for that game. It is the designer's recommendation that this is kept within the boundaries of the game and applied to the win conditions as described earlier. But it's up to your game to interpret this and enjoy however you please. The key is, it has to be unanimous. We do think flying worms and ornithopters might be a little much, but hey, you do you. Thank you all for watching, and may your tribe emerge victorious.